Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out my latest video. It's been a really long time since I made a breakdown video, and I think this is a perfect fight to make one for. I've been waiting for this for a couple of years. I know the diehard boxing fans have been waiting as well. We got David Benavidez, the man Mike Tyson, nicknamed the Mexican Monster, versus Caleb Plant. These two guys do not like each other, a lot of bad blood. This is going to be a hell of a fight. We got two different styles going at it. We're going to break down both of these fighters, give you some keys to the fight in my opinion, some advantages both have over one another, and of course my prediction as well. So with no further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this video. So looking at this video, guys, and I look at this fight, let's first start off with David Benavidez and what he brings to the table in this matchup. So when I look at David Benavidez, guys, he's a guy who is a combination puncher, very aggressive style, constantly walking forward. And the thing that makes David special is he throws these vicious combinations. He has good hand speed and the variety of shots that he throws as well. You'll see him mix up some head-body combinations. He'll land uppercuts. He'll use his right hand at times. He'll use that left hook. So he really uses all his tools in his arsenal to be an effective offensive fighter. And David, in my opinion, has really evolved, I would say, from having years of elite level sparring at a very young age against guys like Kelly Pavlik, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. You also got Dimitri Bivol, Latif Coyote when he was the champion. Like David Benavidez has so many of these guys that he sparred, and I think it's so valuable at him coming up in the ranks, seeing how these champions run their camps, picking up things like that him and his father would definitely implement and learn from. So I think that's something that really has helped the growth of David Benavidez, in my opinion. Now, when I look at Caleb Plant as a fighter, Caleb Plant, excellent footwork, very defensively sound, uses that Philly shell a lot of times. He's a fighter with an excellent jab, accurate puncher. He's got good hand speed as well. And in my opinion, I think that he has very underrated left hook. I think that's a shot that a lot of people never talk about with Caleb Plant, but he really put it on display against Jarrell. What a huge combination. You could argue that was a knockout of the year. So Caleb Plant, just a very fun fighter. Think of a guy who's constantly moving, slipping shots, very defensively responsible, excellent footwork, and get to point A to point B in no time. So he's someone extremely skilled to watch, and if you're a technical boxing fan, you're going to love his style and what he brings to the table in this matchup. Now, ultimately, some keys for both of these fighters, in my opinion. Let's first start off with David Benavidez. So, in my opinion, David Benavidez has to utilize that jab more than he does, in my opinion. I don't want to see him just walking forward, throwing punches unintelligently. He's got to set them up properly against a fighter who's smart like Caleb Plant. David, I also want to see him not overextend that right hand too much. Sometimes you'll see him overextend and be off balance and get hit with a counter. Why I think that's important is in this fight, I think David's going to have a lot of success with that right hand because Jose Uzcategui had a lot of success against Caleb Plant with that right hand, and I think David throws it somewhat similar in a way, style-wise. So I think that could be a big factor in this fight, and I also think his left hook is going to be a money puncher him as well. Also, I think David's got to push the pace. He has a superior stamina. He's shown he can throw so many shots, and he doesn't get tired at all. In fact, I think he actually gets better as the fight goes on. So push that pace right away on Caleb Plant. Make him work for everything in this fight. And I think that's going to be a big, huge success for David Benavidez if he can do that. And ultimately, I would say go to the body early and often. And when Caleb Plant is on the ropes or any of these kind of areas that you hold the strategic advantage to, make sure you're being the aggressor, you're scoring those points for the judges, because something like this is just going to be, I think they're just both very skilled, and any kind of 30 seconds left in a round or anything like that can come back and save you later in this fight when the judges ultimately are going to read that scorecard off. Now, Caleb Plant, I think some keys for him in this matchup are going to be the fact that I think he needs to use that jab consistently to work off of. I also like when Caleb Plant shoots these straight right hands to the body. You'll see him do that as well. Also, Caleb Plant, I think he needs to do a good job of mixing up his attacks. So I don't want to see him just constantly moving around the ring. I think he needs to sit down on some shots like Stephen Breadman Edwards has taught him. And when you see him sitting down on some shots, it really had an effect on Darrell. And I think he was kind of surprised that Caleb Plant was utilizing that style, because before Breadman got involved with him, he didn't really have that kind of style. He was constantly movement, touching you up, but nothing with mean intentions. And you saw that fight against Darrell, beautiful left hook that put Darrell out. Beautiful combination, I should say, as well. Beautiful KO. And that's something that I really saw the effect of that new trainer from Philadelphia, kind of getting him to be more aggressive, sitting down some shots. So I love to see him implement that sort of strategy where you're going to counterpunch David throughout this fight, but land some meaningful shots as well. And don't just touch him on those counters. Get his attention. Make him wary of what's coming next. And I ultimately would even like to see something that would be cool. I think if Caleb Plant at some point even tried to walk David down and put him on his back foot, because that's something that David never really has happened in any fights, to kind of get him off his game and kind of throw him off a little bit. Those are some big keys, I think, in my opinion, for Caleb Plant. And also Caleb Plant has a habit as well of he likes to kind of lean back and go on the ropes at times in these fights. I think that's a huge mistake against a guy with David Benavidez, who has such hand speed and variety of punches. He's playing with fire in that. I understand that he's very sound defensively and he's comfortable being on the ropes, but you cannot do that against David Benavidez, in my opinion. So some advantages that both of these fighters have over one another, in my opinion. When we look at the advantages that Caleb Plant has in this fight, I believe that Caleb Plant is the better defensive fighter with the better footwork in this matchup. I also like the experience of Caleb Plant, a tough fight against Jose Uzcategui, where he had to survive late. And then, of course, this fight with Canelo, who's so brilliant offensively, defensively, such a high boxing IQ. Caleb put on a very good fight, I thought, in my opinion, against Canelo. Ultimately got stopped late. Nonetheless, great learning experience for Caleb Plant. So I think he has a better resume in terms of competition and experience going into this fight. And I also believe that Caleb Plant is a better counterpuncher of the two fighters, which is ultimately very key in such tight matchups like this, in my view. Now, looking at David Benavidez and the advantages he has in this fight, in my opinion, is his size advantage. For sure, he's going to be the stronger, bigger fighter of the two. He's a bigger puncher of both of these fighters. And his variety of attack offensively, he's a better body puncher than Caleb Plant. He also mixes up his offense better than Caleb Plant does. He'll be better on the inside as well fighting. So these are some advantages that David Benavidez has in this fight. And I would just say as well, David Benavidez, another big key in this fight is he definitely has edge in cardio and stamina in this matchup, in my opinion, as well as activity that he's going to display throughout this fight. He's going to be the more active fighter. So these are all some big advantages that David Benavidez has over Caleb, and then Caleb has over David. So it's very interesting, both different styles, right? And that's what makes it such a great fight. Now, my opinion on this matchup, it's going to come down to a couple of things. If Caleb can keep that condition up the whole fight, he has an excellent shot in this matchup, especially if he doesn't let David set his feet and really get those power shots off. Then he's got a wicked chance to win this matchup. Good game plan will be in tow as well for Caleb Plant. Ultimately, though, my prediction for this fight, guys, I think David Benavidez, with his constant pressure, is going to eventually get to Caleb Plant. And I look for a 10th or 11th round stoppage, in my opinion, from David Benavidez. I just think he's going to be able to touch Caleb at times. And I just think that David's style and that constant pressure, and Caleb still showing to me that he struggles late in fights with that, even with the Canelo experience, because, guys, we got to remember, as great as Canelo is, David is a lot bigger than Canelo Alvarez, and David puts on a lot more pressure than Canelo, and he's way more active a fighter. And he's constantly in your face throughout the fight. So that's something that they're very different style-wise that David Benavidez and Canelo, when you look at them closely, right? So that's something to keep in mind in this fight. And I just think, like I said, that constant pressure of David Benavidez, his style, his speed, size, everything like that, and conditioning, I think that just gives him the edge over Caleb Plant. Nonetheless, outstanding fight. Let me know what you guys think on this matchup. Cannot wait for it. I expect the comments to be very split because both of these guys, ton of respect for. Great fighters. March 25th. Do not miss this card. Good undercard as well. Good to see you guys back. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and let's have a great night of fights March 25th. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking out the channel. Thank you guys.